Financial wellness. Reach out to them for advice at 855-DON-GINO. And now back to your hosts, Don Getling and Gino Franti.
Self-employed, right? A lot of people decide they don't want to incorporate because of they've heard of double taxation, or they make a lot of mistakes. They own a corporation, but they pierce the corporate veil. That's very, very common. I'm sure you could talk about that for hours. But one of the things I'm thinking is, if I now as an employer could have my property leaned because I did something wrong on the wage side, probably a good idea to incorporate. And whatever assets that company has, because it is a legal separate entity, maybe those can be leaned, but maybe I won't be found personally responsible for those.
Maybe.
Yet to be decided. Yeah.
But, look, the problem with, and I form a lot of corporations.
Right.
It's part of my practice. I have a degree in finance and accounting. I graduated from the University of Albany Business School. I've been doing business law for 30, 35 years. It's all part of what I do.
That's what we love about you.
Thank you. I appreciate all your support that you guys give me. Forming the corporation for the client is only the first step. I mean, they'll go, I get a legal Zoom. Yeah, okay.
First mistake. Yeah. Operate on yourself. That's a good idea.
What I do is I stay in as business counsel.
On YouTube.
I stay in as business counsel, and I make sure that I'm there to help people do what they're supposed to do to maintain the corporate formalities. That they have an accountant they're going to work with who's going to generate, the quarterly reports, going to get the tax returns done, going to get the taxes paid, work with the payroll service, make sure they dot their I's, cross their T's. I don't care if they have only one employee or 10 employees. Work with the payroll service. Don't do it yourself, so that they are making sure that you're doing what you need to do to dot your I's and cross your T's, so that you have your defenses to the labor commissioner, not if, but when he comes knocking. That's
so much really. We just had Scott Zimmerman on, and they offer those services. And I'm like, and I know when I hired my company, I had those services. It was so much easier, anyways.
Oh yeah,
it was done. Boom, boom. Yeah. Here's your reports done. I'm like, oh, why was I doing this?
I had this binder, right? It was like 6 inches thick that ADP would give me every year, and I was just so happy I didn't have to deal with any of that. I didn't have to read any of that.
Right.
I didn't
have to deal with it.
I didn't have to mess with it at all.
And
the only time that it didn't work out was the last report when I closed and sold my company. Somehow the last 941 didn't get filed.
Wow.
And so it was like the only one I had to fill out myself, and I was like, what a nightmare.
Right. but you get it done. And so we work with our clients to make sure they maintain all the corporate formalities. Minutes, resolutions, bylaws, amended bylaws, shareholder agreements, operating. Those are the things that breathe life into a corporation. But what's most important is that they have to maintain those corporate formalities. And what happens so often is that they want to get a loan, and the bank says, you have to sign a personal guarantee.
Right.
Well, then everything falls apart. Because unless they are able to walk away from that loan, now they're going to put their own personal assets on the line, and the crack forms in the corporate veil. So we counsel clients on that. I've had clients who want to get bank loans, and we take a look at how they're operating their business, and we tweak their operation. We set up a reserve account, and we begin to fund the reserve account. They don't maybe grow as fast as they want to, but we set up a reserve account. We manage the reserve. We help show them how to manage the reserve account, and they basically create their own bank. And then they borrow against the reserve account. We set up promissory notes, and now all of a sudden things are working that way, and they're not getting the bank loan. Or they can get a bank loan, they can guarantee it, they can collateralize it by the money in the reserve account. Just different options to try to keep the personal liabilities away from the individuals, so that if something happens to the corporation, it's just the corporation and not the corporation and the individuals and all of their assets that they've accumulated.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously over the years, somebody advised Mr. Trump really well how to do that, because he was a very, very savvy business person and was able to do that, like 17 times or something.
Yeah, you're like, well, Trump filed bankruptcy. It was a strategy.
It was his corporations.
Right.
And we've been real successful. We've got one of our startups is going out for pre-seed funding, and very exciting time for them. And, we're working on business plans and putting all that together, and we're looking forward to an exciting year for them. And those are good things.
Yeah, there's a lot of businesses being opened. We're seeing a lot of entrepreneurship, which we talked about in the show a couple of years ago, maybe preemptively, right? I was saying that usually after an economic demise, there's a lot of entrepreneurship that comes from it. And we didn't see it for a while. We were just waiting and waiting, and then
it took
people
a while
I think,
for us to get on our feet.
Yeah, well, and I think it's driven by the inability to get a job, right? If you're not able to get a job, you have to find a
Or
way
the job
to
you
make
want.
or the job you want. You have to find a way to make money.
I know even my wife went through it. She lost a job of 18 years. She doesn't trust the man anymore.
No,
She's like, I don't want to work that hard and just go, oh, we got sold. And some other company and whacked our whole, division out of everybody who's worked there for 18 years, and you just can't start over either.
No.
You don't just go back to that level of wage. You got to start almost all over.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurship has kind of broken free again. Thank goodness.
It has, but cautiously.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we're seeing a lot more now is when you do have shareholders and they have disagreements, we're working through. Instead of litigating between them, we're mediating those disputes. Gino and I have a matter that we have folks in common.
Yep.
And these guys, they walked into my office. They had known each other for decades.
God, long time.
Decades. And they wouldn't talk to each other. And when I started, I said, shake one another's hands.
Oh.
I made them shake hands. I brought in food for the morning. And we did not break for lunch. I had kept all the food there. We didn't break for dinner. I had the food there. And at the end, it was all resolved. I spent the weekend documenting the deal, which is something different. As a mediator, most mediators do not document the deal. I document the deal. So I do the settlement agreements. If there are promissory notes, if there are various documents and documentation that need to be done, I get all that done. We got all that done for those guys. They walked out, hugging each other and going out for dinner.
Yeah,
and then love mediation.
Yeah. Well, and then I just circled back with Lou, and I told him, hey, you know what? That was a great experience. They actually walked out. They were happy, and he says, gosh, did everything work out in the end? Because nobody even called me to say everything was fine. I was like, no news is good news. That means everybody performed.
Especially in a touchy situation like that.
And we're talking about a large transaction. This was not a...
it was really complicated.
Yeah.
And, and that I'm glad that worked out.
Yeah.
I even find myself doing mediations for divorcing couples.
Well, we're going to have to talk about that in the next segment, Mr. Lou, because that's becoming more prevalent, especially a lot of times after debt runs up.
That's right.
Stress and all, the holidays and all that good stuff. So you're on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. We're here with Lou Esbin with Esbin Law, and we're going over so many great topics. And we're going to also talk about all the great things you're doing around the community, Lou, more about mediation, corporate formation, and, of course, bankruptcy. What options are there for you now that you just tapped out your cards? We come back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. Talk to you soon.